Okay, so this brings us to the point in the agenda where we set aside some time just for any, well, we're not going on a short break, but we set aside some time for any further questions or comments that people want to make. There were some questions that came in online. We are going to address them rather than try to rehash everything over the last couple of days. Taking some extra time that we have now to go back and rehash that. We're going to answer those and put the answers online, but know that if your question was asked, it's been logged and it will be answered. But let me stop there and see if there are any final comments or questions people have. Bruce.
Yeah, I'll be consistent. I do think the GER has to have a commercial finance, risk transfer, insurance pathway to develop a global market to support the activities that are in the GER. There also needs to be attention. You showed on day one, what are the missing circles of activity? I think we have to renew the legal construct discussion, because while John says we don't need that for purposes of scientific exploration, we can fall back on the treaty. I don't think that's sufficient going forward to give the markets comfort that there's security in the rights to use and to mine. So.
Okay. Yeah, and thanks for your thoughts and your insights these last couple of days. I think, we have talked about some of these issues in the past in the ISEG, but we really, this GER is coming out pretty soon, and as we try to make the case, the environment is not to the point yet where we need to address those, because you can have theoretical conversation. What I have learned, right, in an international context, theoretical conversations are just really difficult to have, and it's really difficult to drive them in a direction that is productive. I think when we get a little bit more fixity, we'll be able to do that. And I think there is a willingness of agencies to address some of these topics. So maybe it's the next GER, maybe it's the one after. But as we said yesterday, the document is updated regularly to give a result of what agencies have talked about. Since we haven't been talking about that, you won't see it in this next GER, but your points are well taken about some of these issues as we go forward, because they are part of the messaging, the fixity that we want to be able to provide people to help make this endeavor implementable and sustainable. So points well taken.
Thanks.
Peter Humphreys again. Since I wasn't here yesterday, I apologize on that. Are you planning to have any habitation modules on the surface of the moon or not with this?
So what you will see in the GER are some pressurized rovers. So what was described yesterday was a mobility-based architecture. That said, what we also are trying to say is we developed a reference architecture to inform agencies looking to make near-term investments on real fundamental capabilities we're going to need. Once we get further along, we'll have a better idea of what moon exploration might look like, and should the desire emerge to spend long periods of time in the same location, you obviously will need habitation modules, but those kind of decisions are in the future, and we've studied them in the past. In the past, the ISEG did a full-up reference architecture for lunar exploration back in the day. Gosh, when was that, Ryan? 2009, 2010, maybe, before Constellation was canceled. So there's work that we've done together on reference architectures that do include lunar habitation, but right now the rationale for that isn't coalesced in the community, and so we don't have that in the roadmap for now.
So it's not online, that won't be online?
No. But the pressurized rovers will have habitation capability, right? The crew's on the surface for 42 days in this reference scenario. So, another question, comment?
Hello, I'm Adam Glickman, a local technologist here in Silicon Valley. I'm wondering if there's interest, or maybe it's more of a statement to look at sub-kilogram levels of payload or systems that would be flown to various key locations to explore new phenomena or other things. Things may not need to be as big as they once needed to be these days.
Right.
And it may not be, it might be more of an FRI type of question, but this is quite interesting.
Okay, and I think, what we've envisioned, at least in the lunar vicinity missions, is, and with the gateway concept, are the kind of services that could be provided to such a small experiment. So we've envisioned being able to take CubeSats along with the Orion. We've envisioned Science Airlock to be able to to take things in and out. We've envisioned attachment points on the gateway itself for small payloads. We've envisioned the capability to use the gateway as a mothership, for a comm relay. So we've envisioned the basic infrastructure stuff. I think as Ben Bussey and his team prepares for this gateway utilization workshop at the end of February, that's where we expect to hear some specific ideas from the community, things that could be pursued, things that could turn into priorities for funding, either by NASA or international partners or other entities. So.
Thank you. Thanks for hosting this too.
Oh yeah. Well, thanks to Christina and Greg and the survey team, and Aaron for all the work Aaron did, and Brad Bailey for all his work in getting us where we are. We'll do all those thanks at the very, very end, which is coming soon. So, but thank you very much. All right, anything else? All right, Tim.
So yesterday we saw a concept for a reusable ascent stage on the lunar lander and an expendable descent stage, and I wanted to ask why not a fully reusable lander?
Okay. Ryan, we'll take that question.
I was pre-warned on this one. Yeah, so it's a good question. Reusability means sustainability, right? The challenge with a full reusability, I think, is the tyranny of the rocket equation, right? A single-stage lander requires a much larger lander. So is that achievable? Sure, it's achievable, but you have to deal with the drawbacks of a much larger lander. The only respite to that size of a lander would be something like ISRU, which we have not baked into our analyses because it's an unproven and technology as we've been talking about. So I think a lot of our scenarios think about, well, maybe initially we don't take that full step to full reusability, but eventually we can get to full reusability, and that would be the goal. On the other hand, we can try to go all the way there. You just have a much bigger lander, and our studies have shown that this could be a big challenge.
And I will add, the Russians, our Russian friends, are, as part of their lunar mission studies, are studying a fully reusable lander with a drop stage, right? So, but that work is really to the point where it's pretty early on, so it hasn't matured enough to be able to be discussed and put into the mix as part of a reference architecture, right? So perhaps in the future, something like that might carry the day. But as Ryan said, options have been looked at by his team, and they found reasons to not go that route. But additional study on the Russian side with different assumptions may yield a different answer. So we look forward to the work that's being done there, and I know the Russians have said they'll share it with everybody when they're ready.
Okay, thanks.
Maria, do you want to add anything to that, or no? Okay. Alan.
So I have a couple of observations, not asking for answers.
Okay.
Just
Oh, that's good.
observations. The first is that as we went through the 2 days, different speakers made lots of references to partners. And I got confused through some of it. Are we talking about the ISS IPs? Are we talking about partners, whoever they might be? Are we talking about partners within the working group? So sometimes I got confused with what partners were. And the thing that really brought it out to me was this morning when I think it was this morning, we talked about maybe some of the partners are not as bullish and not as ready as we are to take risks. I believe that if you look across the board and perhaps look at who might be your commercial partners, you'll find that commercial partners are very bullish and very ready to take risks. And you can see that in a couple of different areas. People like, not the ones that currently have contracts or Space Act agreements, but people like Stratolaunch, people like Airbus, who's doing Bartolomeo, those kinds of things. They're very willing to go forward. And so partners and bringing commercial partners into the fold fully might be advantageous as soon as you can.
No, that's a great point, and I'm the guilty one. You know, I made that statement. I was referring to international space agency partners, but you know, you're right. As we go forward, looking to expand the range of partnerships, you know, beyond just international space agency partnerships, I do need to be better. We all need to be better with our terminology. So, point well taken.
But perhaps we just say, let's bring the commercial guys in fully into the team, where they are participating fully, make them understand why it's worth their time and their overhead money to come and do it. We'll get some better participation from them. We have to find a way to get them in. The next one is, as I looked at the existing roadmap and look at the future things in the roadmap, just a recognition that in the past, transportation has not developed as quickly as we had all wanted it to happen or expected it to happen or were promised that it would happen. And just recognize that when you put together these roadmaps that depend upon transportation development, maybe you need to have a couple of different branches on the roadmap that said, well, if this transportation does not develop by this point, then this is the branch. Off-ramps, on-ramps, those kinds of things. The final one is I really like the existing way you're showing some things such as critical technology needs, gaps, and those kinds of things. That's really useful for the commercial world to understand where you think those needs are. I would suggest that you need to expand your presentation of some of that so that you show where you believe those technology needs are being addressed, so that commercial folks can look at something somewhere that says, here's a technology need, here's where it's being addressed. You know, I think I can address that, so I need to go and talk to those people about it.
Okay. So what you're going to see in the updated GR is definitely an expanded view of technology needs, technology gaps. We've talked about it. It's always been a key part of the document. This next version, it's going to be a pretty strong component of the document. What we don't have in there is who's investing, right? So I think the right thing to do when you see that is if you reach out to the agency in your country, right? Say for you as an American, reach out to NASA. You could reach out to me or our point of contact in that area is a guy named Scott Vang, but you can reach out to us and ask us questions, and we're happy to share it. If you're in Europe, reach out to Bernard Hoffenbach. If you're in Japan,
well, I'm looking at it as a more general type thing. So if we're not, I can go up and I can chase anybody down in NASA.
I know, but we've hesitated to put that kind of information in the GER for several reasons, but just
providing that kind of visibility would help the general technologists, the general companies that are developing things go, wow, I might be able to support that, and this is where I go to find out if I can, so that they don't have to spend a lot of their own time and efforts to figure out who to talk to.
True. I mean, I think agencies do a good job themselves in putting their roadmaps forward. Now that I think about it, I might answer your question a little bit differently. I know we have our technology roadmaps, our technology prioritization effort that's public, right? The Europeans have the same. Other agencies have similar things. So, even the UAE has done a pretty good job of publicizing their technology focuses. They're participants in this dialogue, and they've made it pretty clear that that they are going to invest in technologies because they want to create a critical role for themselves in the future. And so they've done a great job of systematically laying out a program. So I think agencies themselves put out what their priorities are. It's just that doing it collectively is something we've never really discussed. But okay.
Well, and I come from that because I used to be an engineer, I used to be a systems engineer, so I'm kind of married to identify requirements, then identify how the requirements are being satisfied.
Right.
That's just the background I have.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your comments.
Sounds like a clearinghouse to me.
For the record, Bruce made another another push for the clearinghouse. John, do you have anything from online?
We do. We have 3 questions. The first one from Kevin Clark is very specific and related to biomedical technologies and ISIF activities. So, Kevin, we'd like to take that offline, and we have some experts address your question on there in the notes afterwards. Another question is from Dallas Bienhoff, and he asks, will the next GER contain a swim lane for proposed, potential, or possible commercial partners for space missions?
The next GER will contain a lot of information to encourage proposers for commercial missions, commercial space investments. So you'll see a lot. We have tried to recognize that what the GER, the whole purpose behind the GER, I shouldn't say the whole purpose, but a purpose behind the GER is to bring us together and look for a way to help converge all the different ideas across the globe and the community, right? And the reason why we have workshops like this and we communicate to you that we do take into account the external stakeholder views and ideas is to try to get this GER to help converge us. So we're very well aware of the fact that a winning solution for a roadmap, an exploration roadmap, has to recognize government and private sector goals and objectives, and so and in that respect, the swim lane, the opportunities will be hopefully pretty clear.
Okay, great.
And Dallas, if you're unsatisfied, give me a call.
Excellent. Okay, one other question from Matt Ruley. Are there any plans to collaborate with private companies like SpaceX or Blue Origin to develop reusable first stage capabilities for the SLS? And I know this probably goes back to Mark Geyer's presentation yesterday, or if you have a crystal ball that you can look into the National Space Council and see where that might be headed.
Yeah, this is a time when it's not good to be looking into your crystal ball. It's kind of dangerous to speculate, but I would say, direct that question to our friends at ESD, Bill Hill and those folks. They speak often of the path towards EM1 and the plan for upgrading these foundational, fundamental capabilities, the SLS and Orion, that are really going to make it all happen. So I would suggest you direct that question to them. Unless you want to say anything, John, as representative of headquarters.
I think we've been talking quite frequently, and we're here today because we recognize future space exploration needs a lot of partnerships, and these are certainly emerging commercial capabilities that have a lot of potential for us, and they've certainly demonstrated a lot of capability. So I'm sure it will be under consideration. It's just there's no way to know where our agency would like to head in the future, so we'll hear about it when they do.
Okay, great. All right, well, let me take this opportunity to thank everybody for your participation. Those of you who've participated virtually, many thanks for your attention and your inputs and your thoughts. Those of you that are here in person, the same thing. It's been a pleasure to have conversations with you and hear your thoughts. I want to thank the organizing team. First of all, thanks to the survey team for the quick responsiveness, for dealing with the issues yesterday so well, and then the real-time reaction to change the venue today so that we could have a seamless electronic experience. So many thanks. You guys did a great job. Ricky, thank you for everything. Brad and Christina, please, thanks to you. The last thanks goes to Erin Mahoney. Erin is our part of the NASA HEO team, and she did all the work to prepare us for this, getting everything set up and communicating with you. And Erin will be the one reaching out with links to the presentations after, and we will keep she will have a link to a website where you will see this and recordings. We'll keep it live for a while, not into eternity. But again, I want to say thanks very much for your participation, and have a great day.